Welcome to Opportunity Knocks, the best podcast in the IE.
Woo woo.
I'm claiming it. We claiming this today. This is the first episode of our second season, so we're going to call this season 2.
Wow.
Today's topic is love in the time of revolution, and of course I have my lovely sidekick, my co-hostess with the mostest, Miss Mary V. Say hey to the people.
Hi y'all. How's everybody out in the inland region, inland occupied territory, Yuhaviyatam land, Sarano, or the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, however you call it. This is occupied indigenous territory, and we're talking to you from Chica.
Yes. So, folks, we have been gone for about 2 months, recuperating from the winter solstice and all of the things that happened last year, which last year, 2018, was a poop show. I was trying to think of a cool way to say it, but it was a lot. And you know what? We've made it through, and we are here. And so, Mary, let's talk about love and what it looks like right now when we're in this time of revolution. You know, right now we are in a time where we're fighting against sexual assault and dealing with sexual harassment and things like that. But we're also looking at what it means to change what a traditional household looks like. I think over the last 30, 40 years, it's been changing and becoming something else. But I think what's happening now is we're seeing a resurgence of people wanting to go back to a time where there was the mother and father, or two fathers or two mothers, but having a two-parent household so that their kids are growing up with that extra support.
Yes.
Give me some thoughts. What are you thinking, or what do you?
Well, you already know I'm a single mother, so I'm all out here repping the single mothers all the time. But let's start off by talking about, it's Women's Month.
Oh yes.
So we're going to talk about love. Let's talk about the feminine, and I mean the feminine energy, the femme-bodied, the femmes, not just the women, but all the feminine energy that exists out there in the earth. And talk about the embodiment of love.
Yeah.
That is the embodiment of love. Love of yourself.
Right.
Love of your children.
Yes.
Love of the earth. Mother Earth is the ultimate symbol of love.
Yes.
And what's really going on in the world today? Like you're talking about, all the drama that's happened in the last year is like we are disconnected from our feminine energy. We are disconnected from Mother Earth and the power that resides with the feminine energy in all of us. And that includes men. I'm talking to you too, men.
Hey.
Like that toxic masculinity, like smashing that patriarchy, like talking about all those things of like how do you be a real man and still be in touch with your feminine side. I recently was looking at some stuff on Facebook, and I saw this group who was saying how in the hood we're trying to feminize our men and how they want to have like a men's circle. We do men's circles here at Chica, but they want to do a men's circle where they can promote the machismo and the patriarchy. And it's like, how close-minded do you have to be? That's like the white folk who are like trying to promote racism. Right. Those folks who are still with the KKK and still with white supremacy. Yep. Like, it's time for you to come out of the cave, out of the dark ages, and back up into reality, up into the truth. You're not with the truth, and we need to start speaking the truth about the feminine, about our women, about how bad and hurtful that patriarchy is to everybody, including our men,
Yes. So, question, do you think that one of the reasons people shy away from the feminine is that we know that for people that are femme or femme-bodied, it's assumed that they are automatically more emotional? And people are afraid to be emotional and to show that side of themselves?
Yeah, there's so much there, right? Like femme and feminine and, all of that is inferred that it's weak,
Right.
It's like we have to stay the strong woman. When we say woman, people don't think strong. We have to qualify it with the strong woman, you know what I mean?
Or independent woman. independent
lady. Right. Well, we have to qualify it like that. It means that the word itself is not invoking for people what it should, right? Yes. Which is, of course women are strong. Hello? We birth people. Yes. Like, a human being comes out of our vagina. Like, how much stronger do you have to be to birth a human being? Yes. I mean, and not just that, but when you look at all the oppression and all the bullshit and all the toxicity that our femme-bodied, femme-folk, women, all of them, that they have to put up with in this world every day just to survive, of course we're strong. And that whole thing about emotions, like, that is also associated with being weak. Let me tell you, it takes strength to show your emotions. Like, so many folks are caught up with numbing, suppressing, hiding their emotions, that they can't show a tear, they can't show anger. The society has gotten this message that emotions are bad. And that's some bullshit. Emotions are not bad. Emotions are healthy. Emotions are good. Emotions serve you. They serve us. They serve society. They serve the family. They serve the community. And when you're disconnected from your emotions, that's an issue. That's how we get sociopaths. Right. That's how we get psychopaths. Right. That's how we get people who are not really good for our communities.
And it makes me think that, what people are really asking for, what they really want, is they want us to be robots in that way. Robots don't feel. A computer doesn't feel. All we can do is follow directions and follow orders. Whereas when you're in touch with that feminine energy and you acknowledge that emotions are a thing, you look at the earth, to me, in a different way. Because when we're looking at the earth and we're saying, okay, this is our mother, this is who we come from, or this is what we come from, you can't look at it and be cold. You can't not care about the life that you see that's being lost every time we do something.
But some people don't care, Matt. Some people don't care. And that's the same people who are building warehouses all over the Inland Empire. Yes. That's the same people who are overdeveloping our hoods and doing urban sprawl. That's the same people that are down to gentrify San Bernardino. Those are the same people, the corrupt politicians, the corporate people. They don't care. They're disconnected completely from Mother Earth. And when you think about, like, the energy and the sheer power of Mother Earth, I mean, do you get a sense lately that Mother Earth is pissed? Because I do. Like she's making her anger known. She's like, hello, y'all are messing up, and I'm sick of it. And it's going to be, I'm not worried about Mother Earth being gone. I'm worried about us being gone. At the end of the day, she's going to eliminate us and go back to her, And
I don't know if I would say she's angry at the moment. I think right now she's really showing us what can happen with rebirth. How long had we been in a drought, and now we're basically drowning in water? And I think about that in a way that, okay, of course, global warming is real, global warming is a thing, but I think the other part of that, or the flip side of that, is we had been dry, just thirsting for water, just thirsting for this basic nutrient of life. And people were asking, ritual and ceremony has happened where people are constantly out there saying, look, we need this water, look, we need this water. We know that we are wrong, we know that things have happened, and now we're getting the water. But there's such an abundance of water, now we don't know what to do with it. But I think it's also saying, here's an opportunity for rebirth. Here's an opportunity to start over and better use the resources that you have. One of the things that we had kind of talked about a little bit before with how Nestle water being brought into the space and whatnot, and knowing that water is being piped out and sold, we're having some water that's being brought in naturally to replace it, but what are we going to do with that water now?
Well, not only that, but do we have capacity to hold that water?
Yes.
Because we can get a lot of rain at once, but the earth can only absorb so much.
Right.
And so even though we might have a lot of rains, it's not going to solve the drought problem, because we have let that go on. We have abused the planet for so long that, even when we do get rain, it's not being used to its full potential by the earth. And what I really feel like that, you're right. Maybe it's not Mother Earth is mad, but she's definitely flexing her power.
Yes.
She's showing her power. She's saying, hey, if you keep on this path, this is what will happen.
Right.
And making it very clear that at the end of the day, we're out of balance. And she's going to do whatever it takes to put us back into balance. And that means the elimination of us, then so be it. Like, that's what's going to happen.
And I do agree. I do agree. There's a lot of work that's out there. For those folks that are more earth-centered when it comes to your religious practices, there are different books that are out there that talk about, this balance that we have to keep or balance we have to maintain. And we have been out of balance for a very long time. And I know that there are folks that are out there like Chica that are doing the work to kind of put, or at least try and put that balance back into action and bring awareness around. But to bring it back to love for a second, what do you think it's going to take for folks to love the planet enough to really move in that direction, to bring that balance back?
Well, we have to also love ourselves, right? We're connected to the earth. That's the thing, is the earth is not separate from us. Like when you go out and put your feet in the earth, in the soil, and you feel that connection to the earth, when you go put your feet in the sand, at the beach, in the water, in the lakes, in the creeks, you feel something. And you should. If you're not, then that goes right back to that emotion thing, and you're not really connected with yourself.
Yep.
Like, when you feel that energy, that we are a part of Mother Earth, and like you're talking about that balance also applies to us. So when the earth is out of balance, we're out of balance. And when we're out of balance, everything is out of balance. So it's like, when we look at, how does that really look like? What does that really look like when we're talking about love, and how do we keep ourselves in balance? That looks like accountability. That's where that accountability comes in, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like, we cannot be in balance if we are not holding ourselves accountable. And we are not holding ourselves accountable for what we're doing to the earth. We're not holding ourselves accountable to what we're doing to femme-bodied femmes and women. We're not holding ourselves accountable to what we're doing to children.
Yep.
Like, we could just go down a path with that about how we are not holding ourselves accountable. The prison industrial complex is not accountability. That's not accountability. Nobody heals from that. There is no restoration from that. It's like we have to find a better way, and the way we find that is through the feminine. Going back in time and thinking about our ancestors and the wise women who used to hold women's circles, who used to make the decisions and raise the leaders of our indigenous tribes, who used to, nurture whole communities, feed and clothe and nurture communities. And we have to get back to that way so we can start holding ourselves accountable and get back and balance ourselves.
And I want to just throw out another idea. Something that was said to me by one of our long, very dear friends was this idea about self-care. People oftentimes say, one of the ways that we can kind of bring balance back is for us to actually have self-care, meaning, we take time for ourselves to, recharge, whether that's watching a movie, reading a book, if you like to knit, knitting, picking up some type of hobby. But the one thing that the friend did say was that we don't want to get caught up in the fraud piece of self-care, which is you're not actually taking care of yourself, and instead you're using self-care as a reason to harm other people. And the question that I guess I have is, what happens when you cross that line and you're no longer taking care of yourself, and instead you're using self-care as a way to harm? And, if we're talking about this idea of accountability, how can you hold yourself accountable when you say that you're hurting other people, or the reason you're doing this stuff is for your own self-care?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, that does make sense. Like, there's a big difference between self-care and selfishness, right? Like, self-care implies that there's also something involved called community care. And that means you're taking care of yourself because you need to take care of the community.
Right.
And if you exhaust yourself and deplete yourself, then there's nothing left to give to the community, right?
Exactly.
But selfishness is, I'm going to take care of myself at the expense of everybody else. I'm going to, not do my part for the community because I'm going to center myself and center myself above all else, above the planet, above the community, above everything else, And we all have those times, I feel like, where we have to rejuvenate, like you were talking about at the beginning of the podcast. We have been taking a step back lately as we rejuvenate from having a big event, a big change at the solstice.
Yeah.
And so that's natural. That's like the moon cycles.
Yeah.
That's like the tides. There's times where the earth pulls back.
Right.
And that's so it can rejuvenate and do the next, big thing that the earth needs to do, And we're the same way. I mean, we're the same way as the earth. We have to pull back sometimes so we can do the next big thing. But if you never doing the next big thing, if you never contributing to the community, if you're never helping your fellow people, then, what exactly are you resting from? At some point you have to, also, be a part of the reciprocation of giving, know. And I think where people struggle, is there's a lot of, folks are drained. Folks are drained because society is out of balance and everything is all out of balance. And it sucks the energy and it sucks the love and it sucks the resources, the extraction. It literally sucks everything out of people, So we turn into these, sucked up zombies, sallow eyes and, staring at our phone and just never breaking out of that. And so we need that human connection. We need that connection with the planet. We need that connection with each other. We need that connection with the feminine. We need to get back in balance. And once we get back in balance, it's just like an electrical flow, like an electrical current. The current there, once it's like a circle, it can flow, right? It's connected. There's no disconnection. There's nothing breaking it, pinching it, stopping it. It can flow in the way that we can be rejuvenated. And if we never feel rejuvenated, then we have to look at, okay, what are we doing to fuck up that balance, to fuck up that cycle, to keep us from being able to help ourselves, And then by default, then we can't help the community because we can't help ourselves.
Right. And I think, ultimately, that very much says that self-care at that point is no longer self-care. It's selfish care.
Yes.
I like the way you said that. It's selfish care.
Yes.
And I think you are very much right about when it comes to this idea of reciprocity, making sure that we are giving back. When you're talking about balance, I forget what that game is where you can put something in, but if you take something out, you have to put something back in to kind of leverage. I can't. Next episode, we'll come back with that. But I know there's a game. I've seen it before where it's a thing. Or even teeter-totter. I'm it's simple as teeter-totter. Teeter-totter is a thing where, when you and someone else are on there.
Like the seesaw.
Yeah, seesaw. Thank you.
Seesaw on the playground.
You're going up and down, and, at a certain point, you both can be in the air, but you're balanced at that point. Whereas if someone's a little bit heavier, that person's going to be down, and then you can use your weight to leverage, and then you're up.
So that makes so much sense, right? What you're talking about, someone's a little bit heavier, let's equate that to kind of energy, because of course we love all bodies here, all bodies, there's no shame in whatever size your body is,
right.
But if you look at that with energy, it's very similar, right? Energy is not bad in itself.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's the light and the dark, the light and the shadow, the happy and the sad. The sad energy is not bad, What happens is if it's out of balance. If it's out of balance, then it's a problem, because even when you have those moments of, joy or happiness, if they're way outweighed by sad, anger, bitterness, regret, all that, then you're feeling stuck on one side, you know what I mean? And so if you want to be able to move, if you want to be able to go back and forth and have that flow, then you have to strive for balance, put some weight on the other side. How can you put that energy on the other side and try to look at it in a different way? I think a lot of it, has to do with I see so much of the illnesses that we have in society, and of course this includes mental illnesses, but not just mental illnesses, even physical illnesses. Like we have this paradigm about the hospital and the pharmaceutical industry, and that those are going to solve these illnesses in society. Psychology, and there's a place for all of that. Sociology, social workers, but there's also little things we can do to help us with our physical health, to help us with our mental health, our emotional health, that we can do on the daily, coming to places like Chica where they have Circle and just talking with other people, lighting a candle can help your physical and mental state. Burning sage, like there's all these things, gardening, putting your feet in the earth, drinking water. Like there's all these things that you can do to help change the energy and skew the balance, And it's not that it replaces, appropriate care from a doctor, and there are definitely folks that need medicines, There's lots of forms of medicines, and I see sometimes on Facebook, like there's this whole, like in social media, like where some people try to say, oh, just go out in the sun or just do this, and they make it like that's going to solve mental illness. No, that's not going to solve mental illness, right? But anything that can bring joy to your life or to help you heal your body and your mind, helps to heal the planet as well. Like it's connected. We're connected. So if we have a lot of folks that their bodies and their minds need healing, then we're going to have a planet that needs healing. Like those two things are intersectional, So I think that's like the important thing to kind of focus on.
So then let's move forward a little bit. So let's say in the perfect world we have, started to bring balance back to, the Mother Earth. When it comes to our own personal relationships, how do we do that same thing? Like, how do we start that process? I know you've talked about accountability a bit. Is that where we start? Like, do we start just with accountability, or?
I think there's a lot of places to start, but the thing I want to say about accountability is people have this impression that accountability means, something negative. Like, if I'm holding you accountable, it's because I don't like you. Or if I'm holding you accountable, it's because you're the enemy.
Right.
Or if I'm holding you accountable, I'm picking on you or bullying you, And I really feel like, first of all, let's start with, like, real accountability is about love. It is the revolutionary form of love in itself.
Yes.
That you don't hold people accountable that you don't care about. Like, if you truly don't care about them, why are you wasting your time and energy in even trying to get them to heal, Yeah. And the reason why is because your healing is also connected to the people that you are holding accountable. Like, so, I'm a survivor of child molestation. And, in my family for a very long time, folks prioritize the feelings of my offender over me as a child, And, as an adult, I got to a point where I was like, oh, no, I'm going to be holding accountability about this. Like, I'm going to be vocal about this. I'm going to be in people's faces about this. Like, and I love my family. I love my family very dearly, and it made them very uncomfortable. And I called people out in a way that made them very uncomfortable, But I did that out of love because I want my family to be better. I didn't want any of my younger cousins to have to do that. I didn't want my daughter to have to deal with that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was either I'm going to break the cycle now or this is going to go on for future generations in my family, and I'm not having that, So even though it's difficult, uncomfortable, having these conversations where people maybe not super happy with you, or not, not like your approach to it, it's necessary. It's necessary. And that same accountability we need to do with men in our community, like, in general, including the men we love. If we're always holding folks accountable, who are like, someone who we don't care about, like calling out, the guy down the street who's being a dick, or whatever. But we don't ever hold the men in our own community accountable. We don't hold our own friends, our own family, our own fathers, our own sons, uncles. Priests. Yes,
R. Kelly.
Yes.
I have to throw that in there.
Yeah, no, totally. Like, if we don't ever hold our own community accountable, then we're not really doing accountability, you know? And I think, like, that's, like, a big part of it. Like, how can we do both? Like, how can we protect folks in our community, but also, call in folks in our community who need to stop the toxic masculinity and the machismo, and that doesn't make us like fem-Nazis or whatever the terms are that folks who are steeped in patriarchy don't want to hear, or they don't want to hear about themselves, but they need to see and they need to understand that it comes from a place of love, that we want you to be better. We want you to do better. We want our people to do better. Like, and the only way we're going to get that, to be honest, as much as I'm like, yes, femme-bodied women, we can't do it on our own. Like, if we never get the men on board to be accomplices with us to fight patriarchy, patriarchy will not end.
Right.
So we have to somehow find a way to reach them and get them to, to see that it's hurting them too.
Right.
It's hurting them. But trust me, there's so many men that we talk to where they are hurt and traumatized by the patriarchy and machismo in their own families, So.
Well, I was going to say, it just makes me think about how people are perpetuating this, because, I think what's that saying, hurt people, and that may be true, but that doesn't mean it's acceptable. That doesn't mean it's okay. And this idea of, again, talking about toxic masculinity and how there's so much power that's put in being male or male-bodied or male-presenting, that sometimes I think people want to rely on that because it's what tradition is. But how long has that tradition been,
Yeah.
If we know that in our past, in our cultures, that women were the head of the households, at what point did we really see that change to the masculinity? And at what point did we stop believing women, and why?
Yeah. So, I don't know. I feel like there's something happening in the world where that gets addressed. So I'm going to tell you a story. So my grandmother, you also sometimes hear me talk about, I'm the granddaughter of Lightning. My grandmother, her name was Maria Rayo, and she's named after Lightning. And she was very tiny, like 4'10" woman, and my grandfather was very machismo. Very machismo. Chicano family, Los Angeles, just a super amount of machismo. Like, she had to have dinner on the table at 4:30. If it wasn't on the table, all hell would break loose. Like, like, it was just like she didn't make any decisions about the household. She wasn't really allowed to control her own money. Like, there was just a lot of issues. And as she got older, she struggled with early onset dementia and Alzheimer's. And she got to a point where this other side of her came out that we never really saw. Like, she was always very compliant, she was feisty, but when it came to my grandfather, she succumbed to the patriarchy and the machismo. And then she got older and she was struggling with this dementia, and this part of her came out where she was just like, F you. Like, she was so, like, empowered and strong, and as her body started to kind of fight against her, she started to fight against him. And she would, like, get her dirty laundry and throw it in front of his door, because they had separate bedrooms or whatever. And he would come out and he would be all mad, like, oh, what, I've got to do this laundry, She had done all the cleaning, all the dishes, everything for decades, And now the tables were turning, Like, I remember coming over one day and he's washing dishes all mad, and my aunts are like, why did you go wash the dishes for your grandpa? And I'm like, I'm not washing the dishes for him. Like, that's his karma. Like, that's what he gets for, like, all the years of bullshit he put my grandmother through, And so it's just like, I would watch that and I would kind of, revel in it, because she put up with so much machismo that it was like to see her, even though she was struggling with this illness and this dementia, there was a part of her that was free. Like she freed something in herself that allowed her to like break out of that and really just give him hell, you know, like she never could do that before. And now she could do it, and he couldn't do anything. Like he couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't yell at her or hit her. There was no point in that, like, you know, and it was just like the freedom of her being able to do that. Oh man, it was just such a beautiful thing to see. And my daughter's right there watching this go down with me, and I'm like, Mija, see that, you know? That's karma. That's what karma looks like right there. You know, you can put up with all this patriarchy and all this machismo, but at the end of the day, the universe will find a way, you know, and the feminine power will come through, you know, and there will be justice, even if we feel like justice never happens, you know, it happens, but it happens maybe not in the way that we always want it to, you know.
Right. Wow. Well, Mary, it looks like we are almost at that time. We definitely have to do a part 2 to this.
Yes, for sure.
Anything that's coming up that you would like to share with our listeners?
Well, today we're going to be doing a women's circle at Chica. We're going to be having another women's circle at the end of the month at Valley College. So we invite folks to come out for that. It's going to be the last Wednesday of the month at San Bernardino Valley College in the Greek Theater. So we'll be doing it outdoors. Okay. It'll be at noon, so it'll be at lunchtime. So we're hoping folks will come through in the day to kind of soak up some sun and embrace the feminine. And, of course, we're going to be outdoors because we want to connect with the earth, which is what we've all been talking about. You know, and I just kind of want to say, like, we're fighting a lot of environmental justice issues right now, like the Roque Ranch in Colton, the Nestle Water in San Bernardino, you know, like there's all these issues related to stopping warehouses, stopping gentrification, you know, protecting our indigenous land, air, and water. But at the end of the day, you can do all that work, and if you're never really connected with the earth, if you don't actually put your feet in the grass, if you don't go to the ocean, if you don't, like, really do that connection with the planet, then, you know, you're fighting something for nothing. Yeah, and it has to be a part of the self-care work. It is the part of the self-care work. For you to take care of yourself, you have to take care of the planet. And for you to take care of the planet, you have to take care of yourself. Wow. So that would be my message to folks today.
So, folks, thank you for tuning in. I don't have any announcements for this episode, but next episode we're going to have a couple things that we'll be releasing soon. We have some folks that we do want to bring out in our next episode to talk about the Roque Ranch, so stay tuned for that episode. Other than that, we love you. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Woo-woo.